Well, hey there, gang. It's Jim
and Christy
Jacobus with Your Marriage Matters podcast number 139. And, babe, we're in a whole month full of trouble.
Solving problems.
Yeah, gang, last month we talked about love, and we had Valentine's Day and our anniversary. Our book came out, all that good stuff. And Matt and Julie Barnhill at the end of the month talk about relational needs. How cool is that? This month we're talking about how do we solve problems together, and the inevitable fact that, you know, two people living together, being in a relationship, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be problems, there's going to be downright conflict that comes about. And our theme for this month is I am not the enemy. And before we go down today we're going to teach you two really cool strategies for dealing with conflict, dealing with problems. But I wanted to make sure we said next week, Ben and Megan Coleman are going to be joining us. They're actually the people that we learned I am not the enemy from. And they would literally, when faced with a difficult conversation, would take a sticky pad and write I am not the enemy on it. And both of them would put it on their forehead. So as they were looking at each other, we should have done that. That'd have been cool for the podcast, right? So they would know I'm not the enemy, right? Just because we disagree, just because we have challenges doesn't make us enemies with each other. Matter of fact, we should be anything but that. So don't miss next week. They have an amazing story in how a couple can stay as connected as the two of them did through what they faced. I don't know. I can't imagine what it was like.
Right. So I know I'm so looking forward to catching up with them too.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them in a while.
We have not seen them in a while. So we're really looking forward to that. So today we're talking about, a couple of strategies for dealing with challenges and everything. And babe, this first strategy is, we use this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We used it a couple of days ago. We use it all the time. And that is what we call rate the debate. Okay. And tell them a little bit about rate the debate.
Well, we'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, just so we can kind of take a poll of how you're feeling about it. As a nurse, I was used to having vital signs, so I would know a baseline for what the patient was going through, and I'd use any information I got to see where they are in the process. What are your vital signs telling you about what's going on?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain?
Yeah, exactly. Knowing kind of what's going on with you, that way I can kind of assess what needs to happen because of that and everything. So the Parrots, Les and Leslie Parrott, came up with this, and we learned it. And I think it's so important that people have something so they understand kind of where you are on a situation. Yeah. There are people, once again, myself included, since conflict is not probably one of my strongest suits, my best skill set, is I like it because sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision, I'll know where you are, and I'll kind of say, okay, that's okay by me. Yeah. And everything too. It gives me a voice too in our decision making. So in Rate the Debate, what happens is the question, the problem, the thing that needs to be solved is asked, and then we give it a score. 1 being very low on my needs, 10 being very high. And it's especially important when it's something that could be assigned a numeric value. Yeah. And everything too. So
a couple of rules here you'll see on this slide is, first thing, be transparent. We talked about that last week. Nothing up your sleeve. Be transparent. Be honest, and think about what the possibilities are. Maybe I remember the first time we used this, after probably learning it, one of the Parrots deals or from one of their books. We were driving somewhere and we were talking about you wanted to go to a wedding, right? And it was a friend of yours, and their daughter was getting married, her son. I can't remember which one it was. And I said, well, let's use that rate the debate thing. Let me ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to be there? And you said it's like a 8 or 9. I really want to be there. Mm-hmm. And then you said on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to be there? I was like, I'm like a 2. I don't really want to go. But here's the important part. Then I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for me to be there? And you said, look, it's like a 3 or 4, so no big deal. And so we agreed. Christy went to the wedding, and I did not go. Then we had the next conversation within a few minutes. Your mom had a birthday coming up. And I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to be at your mom's birthday party? And you said it's a 10, no question. and you said to me, how important? That's just like a 2 or 3. Then I said to Christy, I said, how important is it to you for me to be with you at your mom's birthday party? And you said, it's an 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And gang, I said, I'm there.
Right.
I'm going to go. There was no reason for me not to go. It was important to Christy for me to go. Unlike the wedding, it's not that big a deal one way or the other. And so I said, well, if it matters to you that I'm there, then I'm there. I'm going. And we have used that so many times since then. And by the way, there have been times when I've asked Christy on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to go? And you're like, 2. And you said to me, how important is it to you to go? I'm like, I'm a 2. We don't go.
Right.
we solved the problem not going somewhere neither one of us wanted to go, and it just turned out better that way. So this is a great tool.
Right. I think when the challenge becomes is when both of you are a 2,
Yeah.
and decisions or actions have to take place. Then we still have to come up with a strategy. If both of you are a 10, then but you're on opposite sides of the discussion, then you've once again got to go back to some conflict resolution skills like we talked about last week, about how are we going to solve this, how are we going to decide on a plan of action, because we're on polar opposites. And one of the things, and I hope I say this enough, when I talk about what's going on with clients, I hate to say I'm not telling the truth, but in true transparency, it's really kind of a conglomeration of things. It's not one specific client, so I wouldn't want anybody to think, oh, she's talking about her clients. But a lot of times I'll use this with clients to say, tell me where you are with this, and sometimes it helps them to assign a number. I will always preface them with it's not subjective. I started off the conversation with vital signs. Those are in most cases measured by tools and different things like that. But the pain rating scale that we talked about is a subjective thing. A lot of times this can be subjective, but if you and I are both on opposite ends of what needs to be done, and we both feel very strongly about it, what are your thoughts on what we need to do?
Well, I think that's where that third part of the strategy comes in. We got to think possibilities. Okay.
Compromise could be one.
Compromise could be one. And I'm actually this coming week, or I'm actually going to be teaching a negotiating skills deal here for a client. And one of the things I teach in there is that, let's split the difference is never really a good answer, because both people get half of what they wanted. Compromise, I think, is a great skill. And that means, and we've done this before, all right? You wanted to go do something, or I wanted, it doesn't matter. Let's say it was you, because we've done this so many times. I promise you this applies. You wanted to go do something, and I didn't particularly want to go do it. And then I said, well, how about we do this? How about we go, but while we're there, I'll go fishing. And you're like, sure, why not? I can go do this, and whatever it was, I don't even remember what it was, and you can go fishing, but yet you'll be there with me, and I'll be there with you. And we've done that on a number of occasions. Okay, hey, look, I don't mind going do that, but after we get through, let's go to Joe T. Garcia's and eat. And you're like, fair. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind going shopping. We're going to go to Joe T's. Everybody wins in that case, not split the difference 50-50 where neither one of us gets what we want. And so that goes back to the old, requires the assume the best. It requires, I'm in this, I'm not the enemy. It requires to be creative. Don't keep score. I mean, this is where we see a lot. Well, last time we did what you wanted, so I'm going to be a 10 on this one. That's not transparent. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where we really have to start saying, okay, and let me put this one more way. All right. And again, I apologize, but this came to my head. What's in the best interest of Team Jacobus? We're wearing these shirts, right? Team Jacobus. It says right there, Team Jacobus. Christy's got hers hidden by her hair by the side. That's your Under Armour logo. Team Jacobus. All right. I'll go, what's in the best interest of Team Jacobus? I'm a 2. I don't really want to go, but Christy wants me to. It's in the best interest that I go. All right. And you do a great job of that too.
Right.
We ask ourselves, what's in the best interest of the marriage? And we've agreed that what's in the best interest of the marriage, of the relationship, always comes first.
Right.
So that's You asked me what I thought. There you
Right.
go.
There you go.
So drop, mic drop. We're out of here.
So, but I think that rolls pretty easily into what can happen next.
Yeah.
Is if we're really in it to say, okay, what's in the best interest of ourselves. I oftentimes think marriages should be selfish in the way that I'm taking care of my own needs, I'm taking care of my own health, I'm doing things that make me as healthy as possible, but it's also sacrificial, like you just
Yeah.
said.
Yep.
I need to still be interested in what works for us together and what would be something that I would do for you that's sacrificial. So the next thing that I think is really important is something that you said, it's how we stop arguments in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
30
30
seconds.
seconds. Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah,
I
let
wish
me
it
pull
said
that
30
slide up because that is some good stuff. And again, the gang, the background was I'm sitting in my office one day. Email comes across from one of the many different sources that we both subscribe to, and the subject line was how to stop any argument in 30 seconds. I was like, oh, okay, I got to read this, and I read it, and I was like, going, yep, works 100%. So here's that particular strategy, or what we're going to call a mindset. It comes from Luke 6:41 through 42. It says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye but fail to see the speck in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, while you fail to see the beam in your own eye? Mm-hmm. It says, you hypocrite, get the beam out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to get the speck out of your brother's eye. Mm-hmm. Which I replace brother with Christy. And I mean, here's what this particular scripture says. And again, if you're not into God, you're not into scripture, fine. All right, that's up to you. But when you think about what this says, all right, just because it came out of the Bible doesn't mean it's not a great principle. It says a couple of things. One is, why don't I get the problems that I have with myself taken care of first, and then I'll see clearly to help you with your problems? Because I got this, you got a speck in your eye, I got a beam or a big plank. You didn't like that picture, by the way, did you? You thought it was gross. But the reason that picture is what it is because you got a speck in your eye. I've got beams in my eye, even if it's a tiny speck, because it's in my eye, it's the same as a beam. It's a big problem. Mm-hmm. Whatever your problem is minor compared to the problem I have in my own life. And so when I work to get good, when I work to get the planks out of my own eye, a couple of things happen. The first thing that happens is I realize how hard it is. And so that causes me to give you grace whenever I see a problem that you might have. And the second thing is when I pull one problem out, all it does is reveal another problem. So I'm a constant work in progress. And we talk about this all the time. I want to be the best version of myself. You just said that a second ago. Take care of yourself first. She doesn't mean anything other than become the best version of yourself. I want to be the best Jim I can be on Team Jacobus. That's what I want to be. The second thing it says is, so there's problems I have I'm not even aware of. Okay. Mm-hmm. The second part of that scripture says there's problems I know of and I'm not doing anything about. You hypocrite. Jim, you hypocrite. Get the plank out of your own eye. Then you'll see clearly to help Christy get the speck out of her eye. And I think that is such great information in that once I realize how imperfect I am. All right. And I want to be honest about that. When I realize how flawed I am, all right, I'm a good man, right? But I've got flaws. There's things I got to work at. Right. Then when I see you do something that I feel like needs to get better, it changes the tone.
And sometimes I think, and we've agreed to this, sometimes when I see a problem that you have and I know I would never do it, I don't do things like that. So it seems to be a double, problem because you did something and I would never do that to you. And so sometimes, but I'll go, but in what other ways have I done equally,
that I would never do.
Right. That you wouldn't do. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that kind of goes back to mindset. It kind of gets you on the same team and said, here's what needs to happen. We've talked a lot about conflict resolution, and sometimes in spite of all of our best efforts, in spite of saying we're on the same team, we're fighting naked, we're using rate the debate, but there's still a conflict that can't be solved. Yeah. Then I think it becomes the obvious answer: get help in solving.
Right. Absolutely.
Get somebody who you trust that can help mentor you through this. Investigate the problem from, buy a book, go to a marriage intensive
podcast.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom, mic
But
drop.
do get help with
Yeah.
with a problem that you feel like you can't together separate yourselves to solve the problem. So that becomes another thing that I always want to tell people: get help if the problems are where you both cannot get to a point where you agree to it.
Yeah. Yep. So again, there's some really good stuff for you. Rate the debate. I mean, again, we use it all the time. Work on that. Be sure to be transparent. Be honest. Look for possibilities. You're going to find this is going to make it really easy to have some conversations around trying to make decisions. Going out to eat. We've done that before. You want to go out to eat on a scale of 1 to 10? We're both a 2. Stay home and eat something.
Yeah.
We're out at. I'm a 10. You're a 2. You go. I'll go with you. Or you go. You want to go by yourself? Yeah, I'll just go to Whataburger. Especially now that I found the patty melt.
Those
oh
are
my
good.
gosh, that was so good.
Good.
Anyway, so again, all of these things, it's part of the deal that we're going to have challenges. We're human beings. We're flawed. We make mistakes. And at the end of the day, when we learn to give each other grace, we've learned to give ourselves grace.
Exactly.
I
you
think
don't
that
have
is-
to be a perfectionist. You don't have to be. We're always a work in progress. You don't have to continue to beat yourself up over some of the challenges that you're working hard to overcome.
Yep. And when we learn to do that, and we weren't always good at it, but I think we're pretty darn good at it now, there's a confidence that comes into your marriage. There's a confidence that comes into you personally, that says I can solve problems. And if I need help, I got somebody sitting next to me that's going to be there for me. I can be who I am and know that they're going to accept me that way. They're going to help me be a working. I mean, there's so many good things that come out of not ignoring conflict, not ignoring problems, and really getting after it shoulder to shoulder. There's so much good stuff comes out of that. We want to teach other people. We get really good at it. And then here's the deal. At the end of the day, your marriage matters. We believe that. Your marriage matters to you. It matters to your kids, your family, your community, to your work. It matters to everybody. And we want you to experience everything you dreamed of, everything you hoped for when you said, I do. And learning to solve problems together and realizing I'm not in this alone. I am not the enemy. You're not my enemy. We are a team, and we're going to get this together. Nothing on this planet will ever come between the two of us, and I know that. And because of that, we want to teach you the same thing. We want you to have the same feeling. And I knowing that you have my back and that you're always here makes me absolutely adore you. I love you, sweetheart.
I love you too.
You guys have a great week. Next.